kind of errors with the way the Air Force handled that particular procurement. So now, since they were the creme de la creme and they found all these issues, now companies are starting to protest again because they think that the government's not doing things as... And you know, to be perfectly honest, the life of a contracting officer is horrendous. They have, it's not just one procurement they're working on. I mean, think about your own lives when you're working on a proposal, right? You're in this hurry up, try to get it all done, finalize it. I was working on one coming back from China. And you know, you're just so focused on it. They're typically dealing with 9 or 10. They're trying to deal with all those different customers that I talked about. You know, it is not a happy job because it's coming from all sides. You're dealing with vendors all the time. It's very complex. So mistakes do get made and errors occur. So it's a they have a work cut out for them. The other person who's key is this contracting officer representative. So think about the program team, the program manager has the requirement, the contracting officer is going to figure out how it gets done. Now we award a contract and a contracting officer representative gets assigned. So that person is the person that you'll be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. They'll tell you how to, they'll make sure you understand the requirements. If you have questions about the terms or conditions, you'll ask them. If they're going to give you government-furnished equipment to do the work, they'll be the ones coordinating all that. The only thing a contracting officer representative cannot do is change the price or change the contract in any way. So if you were told to paint this room beige, and you did, and the contracting officer walked through and said, you know, this is kind of dull, and you know, we want, this is a classroom, so we want it kind of energetic. So can you paint it like a more energetic color? Can you paint it red? And you think, or it would be really cool if it was red. And you went ahead thinking, oh, well, this is the official that I deal with every day, and it sounds like they want it red. And so tonight you bring in your team and you paint the whole room red, and the Corps comes in the next day like, what on earth happened in here? Well, you mentioned that you thought it would be better to paint it red. I don't have any authority as the Corps to change the contract. The only way that I would have the authority to do that is if I went to the contracting officer and the contracting officer modified the existing contract between you and I to say paint it red. Then you could charge the government for the paint, the extra labor to paint it a different color. Otherwise, under the first scenario where you just went home tonight or you painted it tonight and you came in tomorrow and it was red, I, as the government, have no obligation whatsoever to pay you. Why? Because the only person that can obligate the government is the contracting officer. I'm just the Corps. And I don't have any authority to do that. So you always have to pay attention to who you're dealing with in the government. Okay. The other thing that the government does as part of this make or buy decision is to figure out if they have the internal resources. Well, that makes sense, right? Do I have a whole flock of custom and border agents? Yeah, I'm going to employ them first before I bring in any contractors and pay extra money. But there's also a Shared First program, which is a program designed to, you know how all the agencies have computer equipment. So they want to use the existing equipment first before they buy new equipment. So agencies are required to use that. Ability One is a program that's managed by the blind and disabled people, and the government has to use that source before they come out and buy from contractors. That's another source they have to go through. They have to go to the Federal Prison Industries, FPI, where convicts are given work to do in prisons. That has to be a source used before they go to contractors. And then these government-wide access contracts. So these GSA schedules are an example of a government-wide access contract. So one of the ways the government can buy is the Department of Navy can come out with an RFP that is only for the Department of Navy. So I can't sell, let's say it's for computer systems, I can't sell a computer system to the Army under that contract vehicle because it has to be who the agency is, unless they MIPR money, which means move money back and forth between agencies, but they seldom do that. So for the most part, if an RFP comes out for the Department of the Navy, only Department of Navy people can buy from it. But a government-wide access contract like that GSA schedule, GSA puts that contract vehicle in place. So I'm GSA and I have a contract with you, with your company, under the GSA schedule. Anybody from the government can buy off that schedule. And when I mentioned in the first slide that state agencies can buy, they can buy off the GSA schedule. And when I mentioned international organizations like the World Health Organization or the World Bank, they can buy off that schedule. So the scope for a government-wide access contract is the entire government and beyond. But the scope for an RFP that we'll look up in FedBizOps, for example, is only going to be a specific agency, unless they state otherwise. Sometimes they jointly buy. So in a government-wide access contract, they put that contract in place once, and every agency can buy from it, which means every agency saves acquisition costs, except for the kickback they have to send to GSA for managing the contract. So Ann Rung used to be the Office of Federal Procurement Policy Director. And she and I had lunch one day, and she said that, she couldn't tell me exactly who the contractor was, but it had to be like Lockheed or Northrop. And it was something to the tune of this one company had over 2,500 contracts with the federal government. Okay, so it had to be one of the big boy companies, right? So 2,500 different contracts. What do you think the chances are that if they were selling this pen, that on any two contracts, they were selling it for the same price, right? So some agencies were getting a great price on this pen, and some were paying through the nose for this pen. So government-wide access contracts are designed to get one price list that everybody's using. So when you get a GSA schedule, here's the government's mentality. We, the government, have been acting inefficiently. What do I mean by that? If I was the director of purchasing at Walmart, and you were my pen manufacturer, what would I be doing? What would I be suggesting to you?
Best price for all the stores.
Right. And if you don't give me your best price, what am I going to do?
Go somewhere else.
Exactly. So I'm Walmart, I'm the big kahuna, I'm going to tell you what the price is for your pen. You can either play by my price and get a ton of business across all my Walmart stores, or you can choose not to, and I'm going to go to your competitor for 3 cents cheaper, and they're going to get all my business. The choice is yours. The government typically doesn't act like that, because you don't have one agency buying everything for all the agencies. You have Department of Energy buying. You have the Department of Energy in Bethesda buying. You have the Department of Energy in Cape Canaveral buying. And everybody's negotiating their own special deal for these pens, which means some of us are great negotiators and are getting this pen really cheap, and others not so great, and they're paying a lot of money for it. So what the government said was, when there are these government-wide access contracts, like the GSA schedule, agencies push towards using them, but contractors, if you deal with Walmart and you, let's say you charge normally 99 cents for this pen, but for Walmart, because they buy so many from you, you charge them 50 cents, because you know you're going to make it up on quantity. If you sell this pen to the government under a government-wide access contract like the GSA schedule, what price do you have to give them? 50 cents. You have to give the government your most favored customer pricing so that they can start acting like the big kahuna that they are. Everybody with me? We'll explain more about that in other topics, but just wanted to introduce the concept. Talk about that. Okay. So now what the government does is they come up with an acquisition strategy. So before you ever see an RFP, this is the thought process they go through. Do they want to do a sealed bid, or do they want to do a negotiated procurement? A sealed bid is the situation where they write up the requirements and you submit your final bottom line price. That's it. And they do a public bid opening, and you can be there if you want. They open all the bids, and whoever's lowest price wins. The reverse auctioning that I was talking about before, that's an invitation for bid. Most procurements, however, are negotiated, because in negotiated procurements, you have the opportunity to ask questions. So most of the bids that come out, or most of the needs that come out as a negotiated procurement. They also have to identify what are all the elements of the solicitation. So are they going to provide you a statement of work? Are they going to provide a list of, what are they going to put in their attachments? In other words, are they going to give you a building layout? Are they going to give you a glossary of terms? What are all the specific pieces of information that they feel they have to give you in order for you to write a proposal? And they care so much about this because, what did I tell you? They can't talk to you during this process because of procurement integrity. So they have to be very clear and precise with you, because you know yourselves, if you know exactly what the requirement is, you can price it. If things are willy-nilly, like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a class, not really sure how many people are gonna be there, not really sure where the location is, you can't price that.
What's stopping you from going and talking to the project manager as opposed to the contract officer?
So, every agency is different. When I went out to visit my brother-in-law in Nass Sea in China Lake, every single person's desk had procurement integrity law taped to their desk. So that they got a phone call, they would nip it in the bud. So some agencies are very vigilant like that. Others, the program side doesn't talk to the contracting side, they don't even know about procurement integrity, so you might be able to get something. The only thing that you have to be careful about is you don't want to come across as a naive bidder. So you want to make sure that they feel like you understand them, and if you do things in violation of what, you just have to be careful. To be honest with you, I've had program managers call me up and tell me the entire strategy that they were planning. I was the incumbent contractor. He wanted us to win again, and he told me, which is totally against everything. It is. And so, I teach this stuff, but I'm trying to tell you the real life situation. I had this DAU teaching for Defense Education University, these admirals and generals. The guy wanted me personally to teach. So he went to a vendor who already had a contract and told them to put me on it. So these are things that you're not going to find in the FAR. But, it's the way, just telling you, So you are new contractors. If they slap you on the wrist, say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, I didn't know, and just call it a day, but I would give it a shot and try. Another thing that you can use is the FOIA thing. FOIA is Freedom of Information Act. So you could write the government a letter and say, I would like to FOIA my incumbent's contract. And you would think, oh my God, why on earth would they give that to you? Well, here's what's supposed to happen. At the time of a procurement, the contracting officer is supposed to say to the winner, here's your proposal back, redact whatever you feel is company proprietary. So you can take a big black marker and you can cross through whatever you want that you feel is company proprietary. What do some companies do? Cross the whole thing out. Some of them, I don't have time for this, it's fine, right? And so when you request it, and sometimes the contracting officer forgets, they get busy, and they just get the contract out of the file and send it to you. So sometimes you get a gold mine because you get their exact proposal as they submitted it. Sometimes you get a bunch of paper with black lines through it. If the government's going to do any sort of test and evaluation, some sort of demonstration of your product as part of the evaluation, they'll have those criteria in there. The content of the solicitation, so what do I as a contractor need from you? Okay, so I want to mention this point because this is our new age of technology. So remember what I just said. As a contractor, I just need to take a 30-second break. I'll be right with you.
Fulfill legislation.
So here's the issue. The government, you want as much information as you can get from the government so that you can price it appropriately. But has anybody heard of a company, I'll tell you the name tomorrow, I forgot it. There's a company out there, and all they do is look at government budget information. Where money's been spent, how it's been spent, if there have been modifications to contracts, all this kind of stuff. And they're a big data company, so they compile all this data, and then they sell it to companies that want it. No, it's a, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll tell you. Anyway, they, I think Pew Research, isn't that federally funded? Yeah, this is an actual private, commercial company. But we brought them in to talk to the admirals and generals. And here's why we brought them in. Because, you know how data in the government is either classified or not classified. So what was happening is government officials were putting in information in requests for proposals in enough detail that we as contractors could bid a good price. And in the old days, when I first started contracting, we used to have to go to something called a bid room, where they would have one copy of the RFP, and if I wanted to bid on that, I had to sit there and copy each page, pay 5 cents a page to copy it, and then take that one document back with me. Otherwise, I had to sit in the room and do whatever I was going to do with that document. And in the old days, putting as much information in there as possible was a good thing. But what this group found was that they show a whole series, like a slideshow. Here's the nuclear reactor plant. Here's door 7. See how the lock's broken? Here's door 8. See how the fence right in front of door 8 has big holes through it? So why would that information be publicly available? This company doesn't deal with any classified information. Why would I see a nuclear reactor door broken? Why would I see a fence around a nuclear reactor plant with a big hole in it? Why would that information be out there?
You're seeking a bid for someone to repair those items?
Exactly. I'm the government agency, and I want to give you examples of what kinds of things you're going to be dealing with if you win this contract. But do you see how putting that information out there, particularly if a bunch of different agencies put that kind of information out there, and I'm a bad actor, aka terrorist, what can I do with that information?
See what kind of doors are used, see what kind of...
To get in, right? So we have to educate government officials because on the one hand, you want to give them as much information as possible so they can exactly price it to you, but on the flip side, unclassified data plus unclassified data doesn't necessarily equal unclassified data. If you give them enough unclassified data, it can very quickly become classified data. So that's the balance that we're trying to teach admirals and generals to strike when they're doing this. The bidders list is a list of the potential companies that will bid. So the government's magic number is 3. If they can get 3 competitive bids, then they're at a low threshold for the whole acquisition process. If they only get 1, they have to jump through hoops to get the contract award. All these extra precautions. But if they get 3, it's like the easiest way that they can procure. So they want to make sure that they get at least 3. So if only like